Whoa, I didn't see you there. Well, while I have you, perhaps you'll allow me to share with you the story of a village in a can. It started out as an exercise of recycling repurposed scraps left over from a lot of the frames that I built here for my work. It quickly became a yearly tradition, a meditation of a meta process of extracting narratives from within my works and taking those themes to create a three-dimensional thread to be spread across the edges and frames of the works displayed. All these little guys are made out of the little pieces left over from the frames that they wind up sitting upon. This way I practice the art of using the whole animal while focusing in on the themes and imagery portrayed from within my work. Before I get so deep into the idea behind these houses, let's get into the process. So won't you join me now on a little adventure, the journey of the making of a village in a can.
It is not uncommon to find an image of the house in my work. The house has come to represent many things to me. They've been portrayed as memories and as future and past destinations. They have come to represent not just places but people. They act as a vessel that contain the character of the people of my lifetime. Houses have taken on their personality. They have come to represent me. I've become the houses.
Throughout the decades of my work, you'll find the images of houses and cities acting as a secondary character seated on the peripheral. The structures will represent the figure's desires, their moods, their dreams, and inner conflicts. The main protagonist is always human, while the buildings in the background are always there, like a phantom of the figure's psyche. At times, the figures wear the buildings, hold them, dance or sit upon them, and even consume them, as if attempting to digest the memories they hold. Slowly, the figures began to melt into the landscapes, disappear. The figures started to transmutate. They started to become the house. The figure began imitating the shape and forms of the cityscapes, and the city landscape became figurative, the architecture eventually overtaking the narrative. My obsession with cities, towers, and piles of houses started to rule the canvas. I created more collages,
paintings, drawings, and sculptures, all surrounded by the subject of architecture. Some of the works would start growing back their limbs, wings, feathers, hair, once again becoming organic, living, breathing creatures of flesh and blood. No one piece of work stood alone. They existed with several satellite works, as if one image was stretched out over hundreds of drawings, paintings, sculptures, and installation. This practice fulfilled my love for multiplicity, and this process led the way to the village in a can. The tiny house first made its appearance during a solo exhibition I had in Berlin in 2013. I wanted to punctuate the finished pieces upon the wall with a three-dimensional companion whose appearance was different enough from the images in the paintings, but both emotionally and physically came from the same space. But it all starts with framing. The wood is cut at a 45-degree angle.
Watch your fingers.
This ensures a nice clean joint. And every frame has at least 4 pieces of wood, which means at least 8 pieces of remnants left behind per frame. And I cut hundreds of frames a year. After every session of frame making, the remnants are collected and then stored in boxes. I then separate all the pieces that were saved, the pieces that were too small for framing or too damaged for any other project, yet too precious to throw away. These collected pieces of flotsam and jetsam are then cut down to random sizes, eventually to become houses and towers. While making these cuts, I recognize some of these pieces of wood from past projects. And it does my heart good knowing that even though these scraps are too small or too damaged for other projects, they will be put to some good use, rather than to be discarded, tossed. I dislike throwing anything away, if I don't have to. These cut down pieces are now collected and stored in boxes. When the time comes to get started on the villages, a final sorting process happens, and all the usable pieces are collected and separated from the rest. The studio is now being prepared for the transformation of a several-week to several-month process of making the villages. All the boxes of sorted materials are gathered and prepared for the beginning stages. The final sort are then dumped on the table. The roofs and the bodies are then separated from one another, creating 2 separate piles. I remove frayed edges from the body parts to make the gluing process easier on me. Although this can be quite tedious, in the long run, it truly makes my job much simpler down the road. Now it's time to start gluing roofs onto the bodies. I try to center them as good as I can, so that the houses don't turn out too lopsided in the end. This is a messy and time-consuming process. Not every mitered cut is the same size as the body piece that I grab. These are random scraps, so there is some trial and error involved here. But eventually, every body finds its roof. The next step is to clamp the roofs down to the bodies. I've learned from experience that if I do not do this, that during the next part, the cutting, the roofs could pop off and become separated from the bodies. Although this takes a lot of extra time and work, it is definitely a crucial part of this process. So each house is clamped and left to dry overnight. Morning comes, and it's time to release the houses from the clamps and prepare them for the next stage, cutting. Here I'm installing my custom-made miter box. Cutting hundreds of tiny little houses can really take its toll on your fingers and hands. So I built this little fella to help with gripping the tiny blocks of wood that are cut into 2s and 3s. It's a very tough process, and it's hell on your arms and hands. But it's far too dangerous to use a power miter or chop saw due to the size of these tiny blocks. And I'd much rather put my arms through this than risk losing a finger. Plus, the machine's power would obliterate these tiny blocks. Slowly, the piles of houses start to accumulate. The vision of the village start to come into sight. The light at the end of the tunnel is not yet in view, but the process is starting to show some results. The hand-cut houses are then collected. They're now getting ready for the next step, sanding. Every single house is sanded down, removing all frayed edges and nicks, dented roofs, and strange bevels that occur while hand cutting. It's one of my least favorite parts of the whole process. It's loud, it's time-consuming, it's painful, and I can only seem to do about 20 to 25 houses at a time before my hands grow numb and shaky. But it's an absolute vital part of the process. It ensures that the houses are clean and smooth and ready for the next part, applying the paint. Once the houses are sanded, smooth and clean, they're ready to be primed. This prepares them for the painting on of windows and doors and other details. It's at this stage where the villages truly start showing themselves. And I begin to imagine all the different colors and varieties of windows that I'm going to add to these guys. Each batch is prepared differently. Some of them plain white. Some batches are soaked in acrylic washes, absorbing the color into the wood while keeping the appearance of the grain. During this process, each house needs to be laid out and dried overnight. Some batches are primed with colors. I try to fluctuate the shades and tones, so not too many large groups of houses are the same shade. Every day, a new batch, a new color, a new shade. Once a few hundred houses are primed and ready to go, it's finally time to start painting in the windows, the doors, the roofs, and all the tiny little details. It's at this point that I know the next few weeks of my life will be purely dedicated to painting tiny little houses. Every year I give myself the challenge of approaching these houses differently. I try to bring new techniques, new colors, new shapes of windows and doors. I concentrate on all the different techniques I've accumulated over the past year in my work. Considering that I'll be painting several hundred of these, I'm presented with plenty of opportunity for experimentation. It's here where I begin to meditate upon these little houses. I think about all the places I've been, specific cities, specific buildings, and even people. These thoughts and emotions get injected to each house, and just like all the places and people that I've known, every house is unique. Every house has its own character. While working on these houses, I'm presented with the rare opportunity to sit and think, reflect upon a year's worth of work, what I've accomplished, what I hope to accomplish in the next year. The palette's always changing. Although I'll be using a shade of red, that shade will be fluctuating, darker, lighter, brighter. This constant fluctuation is a reflection of how I like to approach all my work. Although all part of the same story, it is told differently. Different tones, different moods. Some fun, whimsical, some dark and melancholy. This process is ongoing, over and over and over and over. One thing is for certain, there are no two houses that are exactly alike. Then, after several days and weeks of painting, it finally is all paid off. The last house is finished, and the entire set is done. In this particular batch, there's over 700 houses. All unique, all one of a kind, and all with a personality of their own. The idea to offer the village in a can came to me in 2013 when I realized that after a week, my recycling bin was filled with aluminum cans, and they would be a perfect vehicle to offer these villages in, killing two birds with one stone. So every year I continued to save all the cans I used for making sauces, soups, and chilies. Now I needed a label for these cans. So the first thing I did was come up with a drawing. I took that drawing, scanned it in a computer, add a little color to it, and boom. Took that, stuck it on some sticker label paper, and I was ready to go. Over the years, the labels have changed slightly. The images stayed the same. Color varied a bit, a couple extra warning labels, dressed up a little nicer, but pretty much stayed the same. Each sticker is then stuck on a can, one by one. For the lids, I used material left over from an installation of 70 large houses I did in Cologne, Germany in 2009. The roofs were made out of foam core, a nice lightweight material, so it was cheap for shipping and easy for shaping and cutting. I choose to keep this more crude looking result rather than buying plastic fitted lids for a couple of reasons. First, it keeps the project consistent with the theme of using the whole animal while breathing new life into an otherwise discarded installation. And second, the fact that the material went from roof to a lid adds to the meta aspect while recycling the material. A few pieces of tape and the lid is fit on. A couple extra niceties makes each can even more unique. No two cans will ever be the same. Plus, it's nice to say thank you. Cleaned up and ready to go, it's time to start sorting out some villages. Each village comes with 11 houses. I try to pick them randomly with a nice assortment of sizes and color. Then, oh goodness, each one has to be signed on the bottom. I do this mainly to ensure I know which year each house is from. The signature is kind of small and sloppy, but it's there. One more little unique touch. Well, when I'm happy with the grouping, the 11 houses are then added to the can. The label is then numbered and signed. And that's it. After each can is archived, it's put up online and made available for collecting.
Mm. Oh, it's you. You're still here, huh? Wow, that must mean that you watched this entire video. And now you know what it takes to make a village in the can. A lot of work, huh? Well, I hope you get a chance to get one of these for yourself or for a friend. It's a good gift. Hint, hint. No, seriously though. Do check out some of these websites at the end of this video. They'll link you to the places where you can try and find one of these if they're still around. I might not even be around. Who knows? Where am I? A lot of coffee going on over here. Also, look sharp, because every year I release a couple of these specialty collector cans. For instance, this year, 2018, I'm releasing the black and white can, where every house is black, white, and gray. Oh, pretty cool. One can of the Night Village will also be released this year. All these houses are black with colored bright windows, resembling a city at night. I love it. And Village in a Can Deluxe number 5. That's right, only 5 have been made so far out of the 6 years that I've been doing this. It goes to show you how rare these can be. They come with specialty buildings like this cathedral, for instance. Look at that thing. A lot of detail, a lot of extra care put into these, and they only come in the deluxe cans. So please do pay attention and see if you can pick one of these up. First come, first serve. I'm also going to put a release date at the end of this video so you'll know exactly when and what time this will be released. Look sharp, be quick. There's only one of each of these this year. And frankly, I don't know how much longer I'm going to keep this tradition up. It's exhausting, and my hands are killing me. You know what? One more thing I'm going to do this year, something inspired by Willy Wonka and the Golden Ticket. I have 5 golden houses that I'm going to randomly throw in one of these Village in the Can cans. Now they're going in the standard cans, not the specialty ones. So don't expect to find one in one of these collector edition cans. You're already getting a lot of special houses in these. What more do you want? Anyhow, each recipient of one of these golden houses is going to have a code on the back of the house where they can write me in, pass me the code, and I will send them a list of fun-filled gifts that they get to choose from for free, for them, for you. Could be you. I don't know. Maybe nobody. Again, I feel like I'm slouching. Anyway, I have to thank you again for watching this video, tuning in, finding out what it takes to make these tiny little houses, from scraps of wood that I collect all year, from the frames that I build. This whole cycle of life continues. Go crazy. So, there it is. 5 weeks of my life eaten up by these tiny houses, and now I have a chance to try to make a couple of bucks to replenish all the studio supplies that I used up all year. And you have a chance to give a special one-of-a-kind gift to a friend, someone you love, like yourself. Anyhow, I'll see you around next year. I gotta go. Stop sneaking up on me like that. It's really creepy. I love you. Take care. And please, 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 just be nice. Okay? Just be a nice person. Okay, that's it. That's it. I gotta go. I really appreciate you sneaking in on here. Oh my God, did I mention I'm leaving? I don't want to go. I miss you that much. Well, see you later.